Gorgeous on
Yeah, man.
perfect, bro. So TJ, nice to meet you, mate. Finally, took us about a month, 6 weeks to get
You
this
too,
done.
mate.
But good to have you on, man. I guess each other's audiences don't really know each other, but we're around a corner from each other, gym wise. So I'm based in Tarrant Point, you're based in Tarrant Point, but you're about 150 meters, 200 meters up the road.
Yep.
You started obviously a long time earlier than I did. Give us everybody sort of like a 0 to where you are now, elevator pitch, I suppose, a condensed version of where you've been, what happened. I know you did a bit of rugby, that sort of stuff. Talk
Yeah.
about your story.
Yeah, mate. No worries. So, real quick synopsis of it all was I played footy semi-professionally, and then I had a year professional. So I debuted for the Sharks back in 2010, and then I was full-time squad for a year there. Found myself falling out of love with footy. When I was 18th man, I didn't actually want to go on the field, didn't want to play anymore. I kind of loved the idea of being a first grader, but didn't like I guess I wasn't ready maturely or mentally enough to be that first grade athlete yet. So I quit that, went traveling, kind of enjoyed seeing the world and being social and living that life. Came back to a lot of debt, as most people do when they travel. Did the crappy job for a bit. I was just like doing smoke flashings in the city, wearing high vis, like just day to day, just trying to find a way to get by.
Yeah.
Thinking that I had more in me, not knowing what to do. And then my partner said to me at that time, look, you train at 9 o'clock at night. Some days you get home from work late or whatever you've got going in your life. You're always obsessed with fitness. You've always understood training and nutrition and stuff and working with the S&C coaches and physios and stuff like that. Why do you be a PT? And I'm like, you know what? Yeah, there's something to that. At the same time, I was doing the personal development side of things. I was
Yeah.
getting to Tony Robbins and people like that and really drew into that, I guess, belief in that you can overcome challenges, and a lot of people have more control than what they realize to get through their pain.
Yeah.
My own backstory was I lost my mother at 17 years old. I went through a lot of trauma there and a lot of suffering and a bit of homelessness and that type of thing. So I was trying to work out how I got out of that and what I focused on to do so. And those kind of things helped. And then started up Transform 40 a few years later.
Yeah.
That was about 5.5 years ago now. So I was about 4.5 years of being a PT,
Nice.
5 years odd.
And you've got
And then
two
started
now, two 40s, or somebody else
Yeah.
runs another one, or is it both you?
Yeah, so I own Carrying Bar and Carlton with my
Yeah.
business partner Cameron,
Nice.
and then my best mate Dave and Joshy, who used to work for me at Carrying Bar, they own Campsie. That's the first licensed
Oh,
facility.
nice. Oh,
Yeah,
brilliant.
so it's been going for about 5.5 years all up. It's been a really enjoyable roller coaster, as you probably understand from running your own
Yeah,
business.
of course.
It's just constant learnings. But yeah, it's been a
Yeah,
great
God.
run, and yeah,
We'll
we're just
package it up as a learning.
legit, mate.
Yeah.
It's tough at times,
Oh,
but
yeah.
we've seen a lot of amazing success stories with the people we work with, and a lot of young people with social anxieties or depression and stuff like that, where they don't really know where to start. I find that fitness is a great foundation to
Yeah.
get yourself back on your feet.
100%, man. In terms of like, I guess who you train as well. I mean, obviously you do like a bit more strength and conditioning style stuff, with a bit more cardio based, that sort of stuff, and weights in conjunction. Was that sort of a throwback to your footy days, or?
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of the programming is built around what I experienced as an athlete. And for me, I always loved measurables. I always thought like me sitting on a bike and just pedaling for the sake of it is mind numbing. So I
Yeah.
like to build into a lot of our classes. If we're going to have a conditioning component, which some do, there's a very much we lean towards strength. But when there's conditioning components, it's like, okay, you're trying to hit a certain target for your ability, whether it be advanced or intermediate, that type of thing. And I like to have people feeling that success, or they might feel like, you know what, I was 90% of the way there and next time I'll get 100. There's always that feeling of potential growth, not just
Yeah.
coming in and sweating, thinking you're trying to outwork a bad diet.
Yeah, I got you. Because that can just be the sort of the hamster wheel that a lot of people spend time on, right?
For sure, man. And like you
Burn
see it
calories,
all the
burn
time.
calories.
Yeah, come in and do 2 classes a day, but not be, I guess, mindful of your nutrition or your
Yeah.
sleep or your water and your partying on the weekends. It's like
Yeah.
you're just kind of burning yourself out for no reason.
And do you feel like that's kind of part of the process of fitness? Because I mean, and myself, I've done that before. I mean, obviously, I'm very happy with my progress where I've been and where I started. But do you feel like oftentimes when I was a coach, like, do you reckon that's part of the process sometimes to just like be burning up gas just for the sake of burning up gas?
For sure. And I think it's an important part. Like, I guess what I'm trying to distinguish here is whether you're trying to get a result or doing it for mental health and
Yeah.
cardiovascular fitness.
Well,
For
because
me, like, I consider there's like stress hormone in you, like cortisol and things like that. You got to burn it out. So,
yeah,
regardless of your nutrition and stuff, yeah, working out is great for the soul.
yeah,
But if you're trying to get a specific target, a specific goal, having an awareness around your nutrition makes a hell of a difference, which I've seen you do with your videos. You're educating people on reading the backs of packets and stuff. Is the
100%.
information's out there.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm a massive fan of, again, like, smarter not harder. I'm a
Mm.
massive fan of just doing the least to get the most. I believe everyone's very inherently lazy, and I just think that if you work with people, you're going to get a much better result from more people if you sort of take that approach. A lot of people say they want everything, like your physique model style body, but it's like, okay, let's just let's dial it back, because the difference between, let's say, amateur football to first grade.
Huge.
It's all well and good to sit there and go like, fuck yeah, like I want that. But then when you're actually met with the reality of what that actually entails, it's like, oh, fucking, maybe I don't. Maybe I don't that bad.
Yeah, it's like you want that physique model body. Okay, give up alcohol, eat nothing but a calorie deficit for 70 days straight.
Yes.
Make sure you're training perfectly, water, sleep, the whole thing. Like, there's a lot to it.
Yeah, 100%, man. And how do you find, like, I suppose you've got a big team over there at T40, just in terms of the Taren Point one. How do you find like you navigate that with your crew? Because you seem to have a nice diverse range of coaches, that sort of stuff that I've seen. Just on socials or whatever, people that are heavy into rowing, heavy into other stuff. I used to train a friend of mine, Ollie, who used to work with ASN, used to work for you, I think.
Oh yeah, Ollie.
Yeah. I used to work with him for a couple of years at ASN together. And he loves strengthening this new stuff. So how do you find, like, do you cater to people's needs in that way? Like, how do you think that works for your team?
Yeah, so it kind of works top down. So we obviously have a strategy and a focus at Transform 40. So everything we do is fairly similar as far as the coaching styles, but then each member will decide how they get coached. So every client here has their own coach looking after their own needs. So some clients might have like, all right, I want to gain 10 kilos of muscle. Someone else might want to have a climbing goal. Someone might be doing water polo. Someone might want to lose 10 kilos. So essentially we try and equip each coach with the tools to train anyone towards their goals and seeking more clarity. So it's always about getting more information from the client. Don't assume anything. Someone walks in off the street, you definitely don't want to guess they want to lose weight or gain weight. You want to ask as many questions as humanly possible to find out as much about them. But as far as the coaching onboarding goes, we have a pretty good training system there. So they watch a whole bunch of videos, they answer a whole ton of questions. They upskill themselves in those ways, and they work with one of us more experienced coaches, whether it be a head coach at each facility or one of the owners, and we mentor them through the process.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But in saying all that, managing people is very complicated, as you've probably experienced. It's
definitely have experienced that, my man. It's
it's dynamic.
Dude, it's humbling to say the least. Like I mean, when I started my business, I started in my grandma's garage, just training people for free about 5 or 6 years ago. I just finished my psychology degree. So I got finished at UL, University of Wollongong, and I was like, fuck, like, I still want to do PT. This is like, I don't want to do therapy. I enjoy it and I respect it for what it is, but there's another 5 years attached to it. And I'm just like, I'm not there. And so I started training for people for free out of my nan's garage and in parks, and then moved into a gym called Fitness Republic, I think in Miranda.
Yeah.
Trained people out of there because they had like a zero rent scheme. You just have to put your clients to be members. And then so from there, I was like, okay. Then I was like, well, maybe I need a big box gym, and so I went to BodyFit, and I was like, okay, well, maybe BodyFit will give me the leg up that I needed. Kind of did, kind of didn't, kind of saw what was wrong with the big box model, kind of saw what was right with it. And then lockdowns and everything sort of happened, periodically. So I just kind of boosted it outside. And then because I knew how to run Facebook ads, a lot of gyms, I like, probably like yourself or like other people I knew weren't. And I was like, how can I use this scenario to my advantage? And pretty much that was it. I just started running Facebook ads. And because I was only one person, I needed to fulfill, 30, 40 clients to really fucking grow really, really well in that time. I did that over like 3 or 4 months and then moved into here. That was pretty much the scenario. I was like, fuck, all right, sweet. And then it was just a shit fight trying to, I had no real entrepreneurial experience other than, dumb shit when I was younger, put it that way. It was sort of like, backyard entrepreneurial skills. Apart from that, it was sort of like I had to learn all this stuff from scratch, so I hired business coaches, but they're only so good for whatever they're good for. And so the experience was very humbling, and I've hired and fired numerous staff and knew that I hired the wrong person, but it's hard, man. Like, you don't know until you feel like 3 or 6 months deep into that experience, and then you're like, fuck, maybe not the right person for me and the right person for the facility. I feel like it's kind of
a lot of the time it takes that 3 to 6 months to even see what someone is truly like from both sides. Like, you're impressing each other and kind of wearing a mask for the first 3 to 6 months, and you finally get to see the real them and the real habits and the real traits, and then you're left with that.
Yeah, exactly. And from a client-based business as well, it's like, retention and all that sort of stuff. Like, it's you've got to provide a service, and if your guys or girls don't go ahead and do that, it's like you can just watch those numbers just slowly or fastly, because let's say if they've got 30 or 40 clients and they can't keep up with them, or you can watch them disappear week on week. And a month can go
Mm.
by, 2 months can go by, and you can lose 10, 15 clients. By the time it takes to acquire 10 or 15 clients for one person could be quite a lengthy amount of time.
100%, mate. Have you found that difficult to try and replicate yourself into other people?
Yeah, yeah, very fucking hard, man. Because I mean, like I was a PT from when I was 20. I'm 31 now, and then I did a psychology degree and all that sort of stuff. And so I think my ability to work with people is definitely a strong point. Meeting people where they're at versus trying to chicken and broccoli my way out of the scenario. Put it that way, as a lot of PTs do. And so for me, that's kind of where I was trying to sort of systemize, but I realize it's really challenging. So I have spoken to a few coaches, and what they've kind of explained to me is like, hey, look, you've got to understand that whoever you hire is going to be 60% of the output that you've got. So those need to be the numbers that you delegate to scale your business if you do want it to grow. You can't grow imagining there's another TJ that you're just going to hire. Not going to fucking happen.
No. Yeah, that's
the same thing.
I understand for sure, man.
Is that sort of the same thing that you sort of run off, or?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. So we've been doing obviously for a bit longer now. So we opened up close 6 years ago. And yeah, it's been a long period of trying to replicate myself and business partner Cameron. And then you can't expect that much of everyone else because they don't own it. You know what I mean? Like people are getting paid for a role and they're not going to put in all those extra hours you're putting in because it's not their business. Understanding that completely now. And we manage quite well with the team we have because we do have some superstars who just live and breathe this stuff and want to keep on improving it and adjusting things and coming up with ideas and solutions, which is great. But I've definitely had the other side of it where people can really drive you downhill quickly and you're looking at member experience or numbers and you're seeing things drop and you're thinking, what's the causation of that? And then you hear a few bad stories in a row really quickly and realize this kind of pattern of behavior has been happening for a while and you took your eye off the ball and now you got to fix the problem.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's a delicate balance because you're like, well, do I micromanage this person or not micromanage? But when do I hands off the brakes and go, hey, this is your group to run, or these are your clients to run now. I don't need to watch you. I don't need to sort of do quality control anymore. And I think that was where I'd see some inconsistencies, or again, hear stories. I think it was the exact same sort of rhythm that you got into. It's like you hear stories of bad clients, well, not bad client experiences. And the same sort of thing. And I'm like, oh. Like you're like, I got to get back in there, or got to do the hard thing and say goodbye to someone that was part of your business.
It's hard, man. That's the hardest part is knowing when to say goodbye to someone who's probably a genuine friend by that point, but they're just not, I guess, developing or they're not providing the service that you've all agreed to provide. And for me, that's where it comes down to it. No matter what the relationship is with the coach, if they've been given everything and you've kept up your end of the deal, but the members are losing out, we can never have that. So it's all about being the best part of that member's day and making sure that they experience the same experience from any coach they would from yourself. If that's not the case, correcting that as quick as possible. If not, hey, we're still friends, but you can't be a part of this team anymore because we can't let the members kind of lose out.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's the most important part is understanding that your members are the backbone of the entire business. And if they're happy, then everybody else is pretty much happy. Versus imagine training 10 clients that you fucking just punishes versus 10 really good clients that love being around and they enjoy the whole experience. It's like your day's brightened just by working with each other. And I think that's a really nice experience. So what made you get into PT other than that? Like, I mean, for you, did you kind of want to get out of obviously like a coaching role is a very not selfless, but in a sense, I think it's a very selfless role where you're trying to guide and help other people through something that you struggle with. Were you someone that was more of a jock when you started because I was a total like overweight teenage kid. Were you more of a jock, or did you have your struggles with weight loss, or what was fitness to you, I suppose, and why did you want to help?
For me, fitness was always pretty comfortable. So, because I played footy all through my teens and it was always kind of what I knew I would do as a job eventually until it became a job and I realized I didn't want it to be a job anymore. I wanted to love it still like a kid. So fitness was never really struggled for me. I think where I struggled was the mindset side of things and mentally from what I'd been through. And coming out of that and knowing so much about fitness, I knew I could get people to a better place. Right. I knew how many people were living in a overweight situation where they had no self-confidence. They didn't have the job they wanted, but they were too nervous to say anything. They had no relationship in their life, but they wanted one. And I knew that if I can help that person kickstart their journey, if I could show them the tools that just simple repetition and consistency and discipline could give them, and then they're down 10, 15, 20 kilos and watch all the other parts of their life start improving, where they go ask for the job or they talk to that boy or girl they like, or they start wearing the clothes they want to wear and they see that momentum. I love the idea of that. I'm like, I didn't have to kind of be there to understand the pain of it, completely, but I know that I could get them out of that pain if they just apply the same tools that I had in my life.
That's pretty cool, man. Because I suppose for myself, like I was totally a really overweight teenager. And so like for me, it was like, my mum was like, you can't go to the gym. One, can't afford it, but two, like, I don't want you to be like some meathead kid. That was her thing. Yeah. No fucking chance. Because of her past traumas and that sort of stuff. She didn't want a son that was just this little fucking aggressive little nugget, I suppose. And so I went down that journey, but I find it's interesting. And I don't know if you found the same thing, but you either have PTs that are like, you know, just love the game in terms of were fit and healthy their entire life. Sport was a massive part of their entire life. And so they want to impart that on others. I find they come with their own set of like their own mindset to coaching. I find. Do you find that, or do you not see that at all?
No, I do for sure. Because my brother's that example that you had. So he was about 120 kilos at 18 years old. Yeah. He was really unfit, lacked all the self-confidence, all those types of things. Now he looks incredible. He's a fiery. He's got a wife and kids. He's like happy as Larry. He's about 80 odd kilos, fit as hell, but he also personal trains. So yeah, he's got that other aspect, and we definitely approach coaching from a different point of view, and different people resonate to different coaches. I think, like you said, depending on their struggles. So it's really interesting to see his different approach to say mine or one of the other coaches who's always been fit. Yeah, it definitely exists.
Yeah, I 100% it does. Where do you find like, I found my weaknesses were like, I think I was a bit too soft, or didn't set parameters with certain clients. Not too soft, but didn't set certain parameters and expectations for clients. That was kind of my downfall early days. What was yours? Where do you feel like you could have done better as a coach early on?
Yeah. Early on, definitely the same. The point where I wouldn't follow through on what we had both agreed upon. So let's say they were like, all right, I'm going to stick to my meal plan these 5 days. I'm not going to drink alcohol this weekend. And they did the things they weren't meant to do. And then I'd be like, oh, that's okay. Let's just try again this week and go again. And then we got 6 weeks down the track and they got nowhere. Yeah. So that was a big learning for me, was to keep my promises to them as a coach, be respected first. Even if they don't like me in the moment, they'll respect me long-term, and they'll end up liking me when they get the result. So that was a big struggle for me. And a lot of my coaches, I still see them struggle with it, trying to be everyone's best friend. It's like they need a coach first. They've got plenty of friends. Be their coach and you'll be their friend anyway.
Yeah, I really respect them, and I think a lot of people struggle with that. I see it all the time, and I think it's hard not to, right? You're building like a human connection with these people, and I'm sure you've got a high volume of members coming through your gym. So it's like there's a lot of people that want to be. I suppose coaches obviously want to be liked as well. I think you join and have a coaching role to like have that, not to be like the man or the woman as it were, but I think you like being seen as someone that's a helper or a facilitator.
And I think sure, everyone wants to be liked.
Yeah, and I think if that gets taken away from you, I think you can kind of degrade a little bit of your identity around that, if that makes sense.
100%, man. I'm trying to teach them at the moment is that they will like you so much more and respect you so much more if you get them a result. If you just be very straight up and forthright and say, here is the criteria, they'll get you that result. If you don't stick to this, the next time you come in, we'll do, 100 burpees or some kind of pain aspect they're trying to get away from to have them get the reward. And they respect the coaches who keep them to a high standard, not so much the ones who just go, oh, that's all right, let's move on. They're going to like that person. They're probably going to enjoy being around them for a period of time. But when they don't get the result, they're going to look for someone who can get them the result.
Yeah, got you. And for you, like obviously congrats. You've had you said your son is a year old on the 26th.
Yes, thank you.
How was that sort of coming into fatherhood and running a few successful businesses and trying to be a coach and early starts? I don't know if you still do early starts. I'm assuming you might have moved some of those things off for yourself. But how have you managed that?
Yeah, mate. Great question. It was pretty brutal the first, say, 3 to 6 months, actually. So things were like really, I guess, solid. And I'm like, all right, cool. So when we have wild, I'll have 2 to 4 weeks off, and then I'll only work mid-mornings, early arvo, so I can help out during the night and do all those things. Had this perfect plan in place. And as you know, with life, it kind of throws you curveballs.
Yeah.
So 2 weeks after we had him, I had Ollie, who you mentioned before. So he was already moving to Queensland, but then I had another coach decide that they were going to move to Queensland and another one potentially moving to Perth. All happened within 2 weeks of having my child at my new facility. So which still needed a fair bit of care. So the 3 experienced coaches were all leaving at the same time. And then my business partner had already booked a trip to Europe. So he was heading off to Europe. And then my partner was going through a fair bit of undiagnosed, but likely postpartum depression. So I kind of had all these moving parts everywhere that was all of a sudden unstable. Not to mention my child had silent reflux and was barely sleeping and wouldn't take the bottle. So we're up at like 3 a.m. Googling like different bottles to buy online to figure out what could possibly solve this problem. So yeah, it was honestly very turbulent, very chaotic. And I went back to straight away getting up, like you said, at four in the morning, going off to work after like 3 hours sleep. So it was likely my hardest 6 to 8 week period of my life was getting everything back on track and getting that stability back at the back of having Wild. Now I look back on it and it doesn't seem as bad. But I remember at the time it was brutal, mate. Brutal.
Okay. And you seem like someone that's very, very strong on terms of mindset being your saving grace to get you out. You seem to, that's the thing that you hold on to help keep some sort of stability, some anchorage, it seems, in how you deal with world, which is amazing. I mean, what were some of the things that you did? Did it kind of all fall apart and you were just like, fuck, whatever happens, happens? Which I'd imagine probably there were some days like that. But did you have a sort of routine that you were able to stick to somewhat? Or was it just like, fuck, just batten down the hatches and do what I can?
No, it was definitely routine that saved me. So before we had Wild, going into it, I was just kind of relaxed my food, relaxed my training, having beers on the weekends, red wines with my partner, just kind of cruising into it. Or she wasn't drinking, she was pregnant, but I was having a couple.
Drinking with the missus.
But when we had him, I've always gone back to, okay, well, I haven't been broken yet. Nothing's defeated me so far. I'm not going to lose, but I just need to focus on winning again because I was kind of getting a bit too relaxed. As they say, like good times create weak men. So when, okay, what I'm going to do is eliminate alcohol altogether. I'm going to eat perfectly 5 days a week. Not that a physical goal was my goal, but I knew that by having that discipline there and by having that framework, I can leverage off it. I started running every day. I started doing weights every day again and just took my control there. I'm like, okay, if I push my body and my mind into hard places, then the other stuff won't seem as hard. So I literally went back to just flogging myself and looking after myself and devouring the right content that I've always lived off. All the books behind me, all the personal development stuff I've always loved. Got back into that and just structured, okay, I'm going to work out for an hour and a half a day, running and training. I'm going to eat perfectly. I'm going to read or listen to a podcast for half an hour each day. And I'm going to action these 5 things. We'll get the business where I want it to be. So I literally just had to take more control, more discipline, because more discipline creates more freedom. Before I had more freedom and I got a bit sloppy. This time I just nailed it down and went, okay, the only way you're going to get out of this is by working your way out of it. You're going to grow out of it, not just kind of shrink into it. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I had to go back to mindset and just flogging myself and putting myself in hard positions so that everything else didn't feel as hard.
All right, then. That's awesome, man. And so you kind of came out of that one like, I mean, fuck, I've had situations where I've totally gone the opposite way, not in terms of training, but just like weekend, I'm like, fucking Jesus, get me the fuck, this is too much. Oh my God. So it's nice to know that routine saved you in a sense and that you can share that with other people. Because I don't think a lot of people probably had that experience. I think a lot of people, I don't know from you, but anecdotally, I know a lot of people that had kids and they're like, fuck, all right, we'll just do what we have to do to get by. But you, and I
get it
the other way.
Yeah, I fully understand how they do, mate, because there is so much going on. It's so hard to prioritize those things. But people don't realize the first thing to go will be your health. Likely you're going to give up your training and your food and your sleep won't be as good regardless. But then you have less energy to do those things anyway. So I always believe that human bodies are like car batteries. You got to generate energy by moving them around. You get more energy to do the things you want to do. So if you're not doing the training, if you're not filling up with the right fuel, then you're going to struggle to do the parenting things anyway. So I'm like, I get up at 4 a.m., give myself till 10 a.m. to get all those things checked off. And then I can be a dad the rest of the day, but be a better dad than I was before. So I see how people slip into it. I just had the awareness and knowledge that it was only going to make it worse if I went, you know what? I'm just going to stop training and stuff because I need to focus on being a dad and focus on my business. I know I would have been a worse father and a worse business owner if I wasn't looking after myself.
Yeah, 100%. I feel like that's the case almost with everything that you do, right? Fatherhood, I mean, that's a very extreme, like early days with your baby is a very extreme sort of case. That's not always going to happen. It's a very intense sort of 3 to 6 or even 1 year period where that's full on, right?
Yeah.
But it's I feel like that's pretty interesting. And so it was from 6 to, what you're saying, from 5 till 10, that was sort of like your routine, or what helped you be able to keep that? Did you have like some sort of a journal, or did you have an app that helped you, or was it just like, fucking, I'm dialed in, let's go?
Yeah, just scheduling. I've always been one where I schedule very discipline wise, I guess. So I structure everything in my week. I plan it on a Sunday. So it was pretty standard. I get up at 4:30 every day and I would be on the floor at about 6 till roughly 9. Then I would train. Then I would have a shake, finish up some stuff at work, go home. I'd be home during the day to help out with the baby. And then I'd have like 2-3 hours in the afternoon of kind of front facing client stuff or on the computer. So my days are very structured and very organized. Yeah. My partner was working from home, or she was off work at the start and then she worked from home after that. So she was there all day to look after him, and I could go home and just relieve her for a few hours during the day, give her a little break, and I'd be home in the nighttime to help wash him and put him to bed. So every day was very routine based, and it always has been. And I just find I operate best with a very structured routine.
Yeah, of course. And in terms of like your diet intake and what you do, are you more of a flexible dieter, or are you very like chicken and broccoli, or where do you sort of sit in that?
No, mate, I ate birthday cake today. So I'm very relaxed with my diet these days because I don't have very much specific physical goals. So I'm a believer of if you're happy where you are, then have freedom and have a bit of looseness there. So I've been doing it for so long. I know I hit enough protein each day without tracking it just because I've done it for so long. I know that I'm eating roughly 3,000 calories, and I can tell by the mirror and the way I feel that nothing's changing. Now, if I let it go a little bit too loose and I get a bit sloppier, then I'll dial in. I might track for a little bit to get back on track. But I very much just live a comfortable, relaxed approach to food these days. I train my butt off every day, but I hit enough protein, I eat enough veggies, and if I feel like having a biscuit or two, I have them.
Yeah, I got you.
How about yourself, mate?
Well, I'm the same, mate. So I've been cutting. So I think post-COVID, I had, when I was building out the gym, because it was me, I didn't have a business plan. I don't know if you did at the early days or anything like that, but for better or for worse, I kind of was like, well, I've got me. That's all I got. Cool. I'll give that a run and try my best to grow it myself. And so far, so good. It's just slower, I think, is the downfall of that. But you do have creative control over everything. So whatever that's worth. But during that time when I was building the gym, I think, mate, I had a membership to Messina, dude. I had like, I think it was about 3 liters of ice cream a week, dude. I was fucking, because I'm a big boy, I was about 120 kilos, man. I just didn't give a fuck. Like
It's good ice cream, mate.
Oh, dude. Mate, it was like, honestly, I think I was there like a Monday, Wednesday, and a Friday. Like they knew me the first name, dude. So shout out to Messina and Miranda. They definitely helped me get through some tough times. But then I suppose on the back end of that, I think it was start of 2021, I think it was, or 2020, where are we now? Fuck yeah, start of 2022. I've got an online coach. His name's Ben Kant. He's like a ex-bodybuilder, gut health specialist. Pretty big in like the Australian bodybuilding scene, to the people that are deep in there. But I was like, mate, look, we've been working together kind of because I wanted to do pro bodybuilding for a while. Then I realized how much drug use and training and food was involved. And I was like, tried it for a bit. It was like, I think I did like 6 months to 9 months with a coach. And I was just, it was too much. Like it's too many drugs, too much food. And I was just like, I was not happy with how I was feeling. I felt like just a pincushion in lack of a better term, it was kind of gross. And so I backed out of that. I was like, look, I don't want really this. And so how can I find a person that's going to facilitate my goals of looking good, feeling lean, and all the rest. And Ben was that guy. So I was like, mate, look, I want to set a 3-year goal of someone that can maintain year-round shape, some semblance of a six-pack. And I want to gear all my behaviors to that. And that was, I've lost like, I think 1 kilo a month, every month for the last 16 months. Which is a pretty easy sort of rate of fat loss, right? 250 grams a week, give or take. For someone my size, I was like, fuck, I could do that easily. And so as long as I stay consistent on that, I think I've dropped like 16 kilos in that time. So I've really liked that approach because it's allowed me to then, because I had a myriad of issues. It was like sort of binge eating disorder and all that sort of stuff that I was struggling with. And so that really just corrected that whole entire course for me. Because I get a lot of clients that are emotional eaters and things like that come through my services, and being able to help them with that, because it's quite extreme. If you tell somebody, hey, just get over your binge eating stuff or try and be more disciplined, in their head, it's like, fuck, it is way too much. Like they're already overthinking the overthinking, And so if you give them another step to do in terms of thinking, they're like, okay. So you've got to just bring it back down to the present for them. And that's what I did for me. Sort of like, okay, let's just go day by day. If you have some cake, it's not the end of the world, dude. And if you have a piece of cake, you don't have to have every single fucking gram. Okay, you don't have to have the whole cake. It's not the last cake you're ever going to eat. And so it was just sort of tempering those things and working with that. And that's kind of helped me. I always had a bodybuilder headspace. It was always bulk or cut. I think it was like, that was kind of I think where I had that sort of, not bingy, but more extreme values where I'd go down 20 kilos, up 20 kilos, down 20 kilos, up 20 kilos. I think that's pretty detrimental. I think I'm sure you've dealt with females or males, and I think mostly females cop the brunt of this, where it's like, if they've done any bodybuilding show or anything, their relationship with food is just really piss poor, mate. Shot.
For me, I kind of steer people away from it. I definitely don't coach it myself.
Yeah.
When people come to me and ask about comps, I just concern myself with the psychology of it and think, or not think, I've seen what happens on the back of it for a lot of people, not everyone. Some people can handle it pretty well, but a lot of people who get into it for the wrong reasons, they do that huge build up, bulk, cut, have this big day where they get their little plastic trophy and walk away with it. And then they think, well what now? What's my relationship with food? What's my menstrual cycle doing? My metabolism, everything's shot to bits.
Yeah.
It's really hard to get back on track.
Yeah. And relationship with your family as well. I know so many people that go through, guys and girls, but especially guys I've known who entered bodybuilding shows, and they're just moods. They take so many drugs. It's like their moods just fucked. They bottom out their food, total their cardio up to the moon. And then it's like, and then drugs are just so increased. So your metabolism, your body's just like fucking holding on for dear life. And this, it's kind of it's alarming. And I think I'm really glad that I didn't jump into that sort of stuff. I was like, oh fuck, that just looks like 0 to 100 for me. You see
a great takeaway from what you said earlier, just when you first started talking there, was how you spoke to the coach and said, I want to structure my habits around a person who over 3 years can live most of the year round with a six-pack. It's a very good way to set a goal, is I want to build the habits around a person who can maintain this type of lifestyle, not I want to drop 10 kilos and then see what happens. It's like really smart approach there.
Well, I think I had, fuck, from when I was 16, I was trying to always, do the bodybuilder stuff, always taught bulk or cut. And so I lived by that. And then I realized, hang on, I've got 3 different sizes of clothes in my wardrobe. That's not good. I should go like a cutting size, a mid size, and I've let myself go by bulk.
The big dirty bulk, the big aggressive shred.
The 2XL, 3XL shirts, man. And I was like, I don't want to get off this roller coaster, dude. This is not for me. And then I thought, okay, well, there's guys who can have a six-pack year around. And do I want to be like that guy that's, like has low libido and is completely shot in his health? No, I don't want to be that either, just for an image. But do I like how I feel when I'm really lean? Fuck yes, I do. Do I like how I look? Does that mean something? Is that worth holding on to? Is that worth being disciplined for? Yes, it is, I believe so for me. For other people, maybe not. They may be happy not having that. For me, I just know I operate 1,000 times better mentally. I'm so much more confident if I have those things going for me. So how can I reverse engineer? How can I just wait for the passage of time to pass until I'm that person because I've lived it for 3 years? Because it's about to happen regardless. But I think that's a really hard one to sell, I think, for some people as well. It's like
it is. Wait 3 years.
Having someone like, hey, the best way to do it actually is you've got to think about 1, 2, or 3 years, and you'll definitely get there. But trust for 3 years, and they kind of it's tricky.
For sure, but yeah, like it works, and you can just kind of dial it back. You go, okay, the goal's 20 kilos in 3 years. All right, we're going to lose 4 kilos in 8 to 12 weeks. All right, that's something to work off. We just tick off as we go.
Yeah, I think that's the best way to do it. And I try and do that with my clients. Obviously, every client's very different. So some buy into that idea of identity change. Some need some convincing. Some need to have that level of self-esteem change where they're like, okay, fuck, I'm not broken. I can lose a little bit of weight. That's totally fine. And they have faith in the system that you offer. And I think once you find that sort of ground with some people, I think you can really kind of, and I think probably a nod to you, that mindset stuff of like habits, discipline, giving you freedom for the rest of your life. And I'm a firm believer in that. I think it's massive. I think that sort of discipline stuff. I think it was a period of like in the last 4 months until I got sick, funnily enough. I was doing like cold showers every day, training every day. And mate, I'd never felt more energized, like 0 caffeine. Like it was crazy. I'd never been that disciplined to the point where I was doing all this like random shit, like random 1%ers of like cold showers in the morning and evening. But it made such a difference to your headspace, doesn't it? I'm sure you've experienced that big time.
Yeah, I've been doing cold showers for about 6 years now. And
fuck, you've got some miles on me, dude.
Yeah, honestly, it's been a game changer. Like just like you said, the self-confidence you get out of it, like you overcome something brutal in the morning, but also the clarity you have, the boost in dopamine. Like for me, it's been such a good addition to my life, and just nothing added where I can't take it away now, and actually look forward to the cold now because I've already primed myself to think of the dopamine spike I'm going to get. So I kind of get it during it.
Yeah.
And you get out thinking, okay, well, shit, that was hard. If I overcame that, then the next hard thing isn't as hard because that was brutal. Like first thing in the morning, 4 a.m., it's 6 degrees. And it's freezing cold shower, but you get through that and you go, okay, well, I can do hard things when they pop up. I didn't cut the corner. I didn't take the easy way out. So next time something difficult pops up later on today I wasn't expecting, should be right.
Yeah, I firmly believe that, mate. And I don't think people know until they get in there and do it. Like it just changed everything for me. I think I was like, it really just changed even my outlook on stuff because I was like, oh fuck, I'm not saying no to the hard thing off the bat. I'm saying, yeah, let's fucking go. Let's do it.
For sure.
And I think a lot of people struggle with that. But I think once you start to face that, start to knock more things down in the day, mate, you're 10 times better off.
100%. That's why I do it is literally for that boost of self-confidence on the back of it going, okay, I did the hard thing I said I would do. Cool. What's the next one? What's the next one? Otherwise, if I started off, didn't go cold or went hot, and then rather than have my normal protein shake in the morning, I ate Macca's. And then instead of making those 5 phone calls, I didn't. It kind of flows into more negative decisions. Sit on the couch and watch Netflix all day, not answer my phone, not do the things I'm meant to do. It's very easy to fall in that lifestyle. So for 100%. Me, it's like, if I let one area go, I'm likely going to slip in others. So how I do anything is how I do everything. Just approach it like that.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Man, look, TJ, this has been a great chat. I'd love to have another one sometime soon in the future, man. I think there's a lot more that we can uncover about each other and share as business owners and as dudes just trying to do our best in the world and help our community. Tell people where they can find you on Instagram, that sort of stuff. Plug yourself and we'll go from there.
Yeah, thanks, brother. It's been a great chat. Thanks for having me. It was a bit impromptu. We kind of jump on, finally got it sorted, but it's nice to have a good yarn. So how to find me is just TJ_Transform40. Transform40 is the business. So you kind of find that all over social medias and stuff like that. But yeah, I'm just really grateful to have the time here today, mate, and have the chat. And I'd love to have another one soon and go a bit more deeper into topics.
I think so, man. I think we've got a lot of good knowledge to share with each other and share to everybody else. So I appreciate your time, man. I'm glad we got this done and looking forward to the next one.
For sure. Thank you, brother. Have a great day.
You too.
Cheers.